everybody. We are on Proverbs chapter 25 today. I am again going to read from the Message Bible. There are also these Proverbs of Solomon collected by scribes of Hezekiah, king of Judah. God delights in concealing things. Scientists delight in discovering things. Like the horizons for breadth and the ocean for depth, the understanding of a good leader is broad and deep. Remove impurities from the silver, and the silversmith can craft a fine chalice. Remove the wicked from leadership, and authority will be credible and God-honoring. Don't work yourself into the spotlight. Don't push your way into the place of prominence. It's better to be promoted to a place of honor than face humiliation by being demoted. Don't jump to conclusions. There may be a perfectly good explanation for what you just saw. In the heat of an argument, don't betray confidences. Word is sure to get around, and no one will trust you. The right word at the right time is like a custom-made piece of jewelry. And a wise friend's timely reprimand is like a gold ring slipped on your finger. Reliable friends who do what they say are like cool drinks in sweltering heat, refreshing. Like billowing clouds that bring no rain is the person who talks big but never produces. Patient persistence pierces through indifference. Gentle speech breaks down rigid defenses. When you're given a box of candy, don't gulp it down. Eat too much chocolate and you'll make yourself sick. And when you find a friend, don't doubt where you're welcome. Show up at all hours and he'll soon get fed up. Anyone who tells lies against the neighbors in court or on the street is a loose cannon. Trusting a double-crosser when you're in trouble is like biting down on an abscessed tooth. Singing light songs to the heavy-hearted is like pouring salt in their wounds. If you see your enemy hungry, go buy him lunch. If he's thirsty, bring him a drink. Your generosity will surprise him with goodness, and God will look after you. A north wind brings stormy weather, and a gossipy tongue stormy looks. Better to live alone in a tumble-down shack than share a mansion with a nagging spouse. Like a cool drink of water when you're worn out and weary is a letter from a long-lost friend. A good person who gives in to a bad person is a muddied spring, a polluted well. It's not smart to stuff yourself with sweets, nor is glory piled on glory good for you. A person without self-control is like a house with its doors and windows knocked out. So this chapter is a bit more precise and stinging in its little quips. I read that they were probably written down. He would say them later on when he was a little bit more mature, Solomon, that being Solomon. I'm no expert on that, but you can definitely see a little bit of repetition, so probably the things that he really held on to, the proverbs that he held on to and possibly even taught to his kids, or that he sort of honed, as if you're a speaker or a writer, you hone your skill, and so he has pretty much honed his skill of writing out proverbs or speaking out proverbs, and they're a little more biting in this chapter. One of the most interesting verses, I think, is verse 2. God delights in concealing things. Scientists delight in discovering things. That is the Message Bible. The Amplified Bible says, it is the glory of God to conceal a matter, but the glory of kings is to search out a matter. Because clearly back then, kings were the ones that would finance that search. But I kind of saw that as the game that God sort of put into the world for us. Because him having created us, he knew that we're not like animals in which we just procreate, gather some nuts, eat some salmon, and it depends on what kind of animal you are, hibernate, and just do it all over again. We need to build cities. We have this desire to understand what's going on, and from the beginning of humanity, we've just wanted to know how things work. And clearly, sometimes our theories were way off, but there was still that curiosity there. And so I really think that this is sort of the game, the sense of humor that God has. And just like we would do with our kids, like sometimes they want us to do everything for them, and you say, no, you got to figure out how to do that yourself. I remember my little girl, she had this little, in French we call it a doudou, a stuffed animal, and my husband once put it on the very top of a door, and it was up there, and she was probably 2 at the time, and she laughed and giggled and then said, I want my doo-doo back. And he said, no, figure out how to do it. And at first she was confused about it, and she jumped and she couldn't reach, and she asked him to get it, and he said, no, figure it out. And then she realized that he was serious. And I did too, because being the mother, I am more prone to protecting my little toddler. But I watched her with amazement as she tried to find a stick, and the stick wouldn't reach because she was tiny, and we had really tall doors. And then she figured out how to move the door, and then her doo-doo fell down, And so I think this is part of God's parenting us, and his humor and his knowledge that we need to discover stuff, and we want to kind of do the work ourselves. And so I found that a little fascinating, sort of an insight into God, sort of makes him closer to us. Sometimes I grew up imagining God super far away, like looking at us maybe through a telescope or something. But that verse I really found as something that brought him a little more personal to me. Then verse 20 is interesting. Singing light songs to the heavy-hearted is like pouring salt in their wounds. This is so true. This is, if somebody you love is going through a hard time, you dancing around them or singing to them, it's not that you can't try to make somebody laugh, but if it is a time of mourning for them, in Ecclesiastes, they say that there's a time for everything. There's a time for mourning. There's a time to be sad. There's a time to be joyous. Don't be in bad taste, basically. And I love how God reminds us to not be inappropriate, to allow people to have their time of mourning, even if it is not your time of mourning. So, present yourself appropriately and in good taste. If it's not the moment for you to make jokes, understand that, and that definitely requires maturity. And so that kind of goes a little bit deeper than just not singing, but understanding the time and the place to do that stuff. Then it goes down to verse 26. A good person who gives in to a bad person is a muddied spring, a polluted well. In the Amplified Bible, it says, a righteous man who falters before the wicked is like a murky spring in a polluted well. So pretty much the same, righteous and good person being a little bit different. This I looked up and read a few commentaries on, and it's really about in a moment of temptation, if a good person hesitates, they've really given in. So this moments of temptation, moments that are critical in decision making, really weed out the people who have set their moral foundation solidly. And again, I think if you go a little bit deeper in this is an encouragement to really solidly set your moral foundation, because you do not want to be that person that comes up in a crisis or in a temptation and just crumbles apart or gives in. And even your hesitation to make the right decision, to either tell the truth or to do the right thing or to stand up for justice, you could go down a whole list. Just your hesitation shows that you don't have a really firm moral foundation. And so again, it is really important to understand where your limits of morality are, where you are not going to be pushed further. Mine right now is I am telling the truth. It does not matter. I am telling the truth. I grew up with lies being told to me, constantly things being hidden from me, and I know what that can lead to. So I'm telling the truth. I will tell the truth. I can tell it in a gracious way, but I'm telling the truth. And maybe it won't change your opinion, but I'm not going to hide the truth from the people that I love, because that is a form of deception. And that can actually lead them down a path in which they would resent me not having told them the truth in the first place. So that's one of my things, and I encourage you to find your limits. That's where your moral limit is, and then you won't hesitate. When the moment comes, you'll say, no, this is where I'm not going. This is just like a company when they set their cultural, their company culture sayings or the the top 3 or 4 things that make them who they are. That's what you're doing. This is where I am. This is my this is who I am. This is my motto for life. This is my foundation where I'm not going to go past. Verse 27, and I'll end with that. As usual, there's lots and lots of stuff that we can look at, but it is not smart to stuff yourself with sweets, nor is glory piled on glory good for you. And in the Amplified, just to have a contrast, it is not good to eat much honey, so to seek one's own glory is not glory. So again, if you go a little bit deeper in this, it is to show you, okay, you might do a lot of good things, and especially as you mature in your spiritual walk with God, as you really align yourself to the moral foundation that you're going to create along with the Bible, you'll probably end up doing a lot of things that people are like, wow, awesome. Once you have aligned yourself to morality, you might end up with a lot of praise. But there's a warning there. Be very careful about that. You need to keep a humble head. You need to not seek out glory, and you need to not glorify yourself. Instead, what you need to do is help others achieve what you have achieved. Help others align their morality properly. Help others create a moral foundation. So that's it for chapter 25. We will be back tomorrow with chapter 26. If you like this video, please hit like, hit the subscribe button below and the little bell if you want to be notified. Hit me up with any comments, questions, anything you want to say, and I will see you later.